What is going on, Diablo 2 fans? Dobrunsky here, and I think in today's build video, I've potentially solved a long-withstanding issue that a Fireclaw shapeshifting druid suffers from, and that is how do you effectively handle fire immune monsters. I think I really accomplished that in today's video. Again, let me know in the comment section below if you guys agree or disagree. I always do read the comments, but I will have timestamps in the description, so if you want to navigate between certain segments of the video, they're there for you guys to use, so please take advantage of them. And also, one last quick reminder before we jump in, just want to let you guys know that I do stream twice a week on Twitch, so if you guys do enjoy this YouTube content, any follows over there on that platform would be very much appreciated. Got the link in the description below. That being said, guys, let's just jump in. So you're probably wondering, how did I actually make this build more viable? Well, I did two simple things. The first is I changed the main weapon that is typically used on this build. So in the past, I've tried 6 shield face blades, and I've tried shield rune, 15 IS enhanced damage Grizz Caddies. They're both really good weapons to use on a werebear spec. You have a really fast-hitting weapon, but the problem is you don't have a lot of raw physical damage. So you run into a fire immune monster, you're sitting there slapping him with like 500 to 800 physical damage, and it just takes forever. You're waiting around for your mercenary to come over and aggro. We all know how bad AI is for the mercenary in Diablo 2, and it just makes your life miserable and slow if you're running into a lot of fire immune monsters. So I used a 3 open socket Ethereal Tomb Reaver with a Zod Rune and 2 Ruby Jewels of Fervor for the setup. So this is a pretty rare weapon and difficult to obtain, but it does have a lot of beneficial stats, like a lot of increased attack speed, so we're still hitting really fast, res, MF, and also a lot of raw fizz damage. So I have 200 to almost 1,000 physical damage, so that's just going to make your life a lot easier when you're trying to whittle down fire immune monsters. And the second major change is that I decided to run this build with a werewolf instead of a werebear. So I have actually just recently touched on a new kind of IS frame cap removal bugged werebear, whatever, where again you're attacking super fast, doing tons of fire damage, but you run into fire immune monsters, life is just slow. So switching to a werewolf spec, I can actually at the same time synergize Feral Rage with my Fireclaw attack. So I have more physical damage, life leech, faster unlock and movement speed, and then I pair that with the skill Armageddon, which is actively being casted, providing additional fire damage. And I think that I made a pretty hard-hitting and viable Fireclaw setup. To make things even more effective, you can choose between using Oak Sage or Heart of the Wolverine. So Heart of the Wolverine is going to give you more damage, Oak Sage is more life. So depending on if you want to be a little more tanky or have more physical damage, the combination of all those different skill changes, shapeshifting form, and weapon just really ended up making what I think is a very viable Fireclaw setup. So as far as the skill points and attribute distribution goes, I decided to make this a little bit more than a max vitality setup. So I do have some additional points into strength for more damage, just enough dexterity to equip my gear, and then everything else is put into vitality. So in a roundabout way, a almost max vitality setup, but not quite. And then as far as the skill tree goes, I have 1 hard point into Oak Sage, 1 hard point into Heart of Wolverine. I did not invest any points into Summon Grizzly. I just feel like you should prioritize Fireclaw and all of its damage, so that's where I decided to invest more skill points. So for shapeshifting, I have 1 hard point into Werewolf, Lycanthropy, Werebear, and then the prerequisites to completely max out Fireclaw. I put 20 hard points into Fireclaw, and then for the elemental tree, I unlocked Armageddon, and then I completely maxed Armageddon, and then all of the synergies to Armageddon, which actually at the same time provide a damage synergy bonus to Fireclaw. So kind of made sense in my opinion to use Armageddon in combination with the other fire skills, because all of the fire skills like Volcano and Fissure, Firestorm will synergize Fireclaw damage and at the same time synergize Armageddon damage. So felt like a good opportunity to use both skills again, and it's also a very cool looking skill to boot. So taking a look at the gear now, first we'll start off with the weapon, which I already referenced, is the 3 open socket Ethereal Tomb Reaver with a Zod Rune and a Ruby Jewel Fervor for 201 to 927 damage. And then again, all res, attack rating, extra damage to the undead, MF, a great solid weapon to use for a shapeshifter. For the body armor, this is going to be very controversial. I decided to go with Enigma for a couple of reasons. One is the additional strength is more damage. So again, it's not quite as much damage as Fortitude, but I do get a lot of other beneficial stats like faster run lock, the maximum life, damage reduction, MF, etc. It is true that Fortitude will be slightly more overall damage, but I think the 2 dull skills, which boosts Get in damage, Fireclaw damage, having faster run lock from Enigma is a nice combo. Again, you can use more cheaper budget armors like Duress or something if you don't have Enigma. This isn't a budget build though, I'm going for kind of top tier setup, so I decided to use Enigma. For the helmet, I have a 5.5 Fire Facet Jalal's. A lot of people might reference or ask in the comment section below why I didn't use Ravenlore. I feel like Jalal's is a better overall choice for this setup. You don't want to go pure fire damage because then again you suffer with that issue of how do you handle fire immune monsters. So Jalal's has 4 to shapeshifting skills, FHR, attack rating, strength, all res, just a great all-around helmet, and then I boost my fire damage with a 5.5 Fire Facet. So I just think it's a better overall setup. Then for the amulet, I have Cat's Eye. You could alternatively use High Lords. So High Lords is more Deadly Strike, 1 skills. Cat's Eye is just more faster realm walk, and because this is kind of a meme build with 256% faster realm walk, if I'm using the correct offhand weapon, I thought Cat's Eye was a better fit. And then I have Drax Gloves, a Ravenfrost Ring, Dual Leech Ring, quad res with attack rating, Nosferatu's Coil, then I have Gore Rider Boots. You could use String of Ears if you wanted to, I just thought Nos was a cool belt, slows down target, and just something a little bit different. On the offhand, I have CTN Spirit, or you can alternatively use Harmony. So Harmony is how I get that extra faster realm walk, get to 256%. If you want more life and survivability, you can sacrifice using this on the offhand and using CTA. I just wanted to reference both of these combos. They're both completely viable. One you could argue is better than the other. It just depends on if you really want that extra faster realm walk. Then for the inventory, I have different assorted elemental skillers. And then some of these are elemental faster realm walk. So ideally, I like to have a full inventory of 7 faster realm walk. Now, a lot of people might be like, why aren't you using max damage attack rating plus life? Or why aren't you using shapeshifting? Well, elemental skills boost the number of skills that I have invested in Armageddon, which gives me a little bit more extra damage. So you could go either way, but these are really cheap to trade for. Nobody wants faster realm walk elemental skillers, so that's why I went that route. And then you have different assorted faster realm walk all res small charms, and then an Annie and a 2019 Druid Torch. The Mercenary is just using Fortitude and Darrow's Visage and Infinity. So you could use something other than Infinity, although it's really going to sacrifice your overall fire damage. So again, expensive build, I went with Infinity. But this build really does have some pretty insane faster run walk, excuse me. I do think that when you toggle back and forth between the old graphics, I feel like it makes you look a little bit faster. Again, this doesn't even have Feral Rage toggled, but then with the new graphics, it almost to an extent kind of hides how fast you can get around. But that is the skill tree, gear, attributes. So now we'll wrap everything up with some gameplay. We'll take on the Ancient Tunnels with the Harmony setup where you can get around quicker, and then I'll use a more traditional standard setup to do a quick Chaos Sanctuary run. So like I mentioned, Ancient Tunnels for the first run. I'm using Harmony on the offhand, so I don't actually have that bigger plus life buff, but Oak Sage kind of helps counteract that. And then a lot of people have asked this, you can simultaneously cast Armageddon in shapeshifting form, so that's the reason why you'll see it activated. Now, use Harmony on the offhand. That's kind of convenient for the video. There's the Ancient Tunnels. So I get around pretty quickly. I want to rock my Feral Rage though. So these guys are fire immune. You can just break their fire immunity. But then you can see that I have some pretty good substantial physical damage, which I can use to take on those builds as well. It's actually, there's a lot going on with this build as well. So between constantly making sure you have your Feral Rage active and then recasting Armageddon, which has a pretty short duration, it's a fun build to play. But these guys typically, when you're playing on like your standard Werebear Fireclaw setup, really can't do a lot of damage to them. We get that Feral Rage proc, and then I can switch to Harmony on the offhand and just motor around. It's like we almost have PoE movement style. Not quite there, but we're getting there. But here, Harmony, Feral Rage, 256% faster run walk. The only downside is you're sacrificing like your CTA buff if you go that route. But you try to make up with it with Oak Sage. Over to cast Armageddon. we'll zoom in here for a second. I do have some pretty decent attack speed as well. Again, it doesn't quite match those like super crazy bugged out builds, but you can still get around the ancient tunnels pretty good. Okay, so that's the quick ancient tunnels run. So now we'll jump to Chaos Sanctuary with a more dedicated setup. So for the Chaos Sanctuary run, I'm going to use a little bit more of a versatile setup. So instead of Harmony on the offhand and Cat's Eye, I'm using High Lords and then CTA on the offhand and Heart of the Wolverine instead of Oak Sage. So going with a more practical approach instead of that crazy faster Romok build that I just wanted to demonstrate, but it's kind of needed for Chaos Sanctuary. But we'll buff up, cast our Oak Sage, and then we'll shapeshift again. All same idea, we just don't have quite as much faster Romok. But you'll see, once I get Feral Rage active, I mean, we got a lot of good physical damage. Armageddon is raining down, doing solid damage, and these are these Pit Lords, which we're not stuck doing no damage to. Now, if you compare this to Hammerden, nothing matches the Hammerden. Nothing ever will match the Hammerden in Chaos Sanctuary. But if you want to play something different, these are fire immune monsters here, Pit Lords, which we can still carry on and go through. And then everything else that's not fire immune, you can see like these blood maggots. With your Fire Claw and your Armageddon, you just rip them apart. And again, like I mentioned, it's a fun build to play because you're constantly active with your hotkeys between recasting Armageddon, making sure your Feral Rage is buffed. We do pretty good, I think. Cast Armageddon. Now we did lose our summon, but we got a rebuff anyways. Another thing too is I find that the reanimates from Tomb Reaver makes it difficult to not attack them. I always think that they're extra guys. Go snipe all these mages. It just really makes me think that if they ever did some rebalancing where they kind of made it so fire immunes still exist in the game, but they're like lightning and they can all be broken, I just feel like you could do some really cool stuff. Like this build would just wreck face Fireclaw just going through. And that's not... I don't think that they should remove immunities. I think immunities should be in the game. I just think that it'd be cool if you could break more of them after you make those really hard to achieve rune words like Infinity. But I mean, that was a pretty big pack of Fire Immune Venom Lords. And I think a lot of this like faster clear speed for melee, again, doesn't quite compare to Hammerden, can all be attributed to using that different weapon. You got this cool style points. Tons of life leech, faster Romok, movement, good raw hitting damage, res is capped, raiding Armageddon from the sky. Really fun build. I should probably... The only downside to using Armageddon is whenever you cast it, there's a 7-second delay it adds to other stuff. So that can kind of be annoying. That's why I was sitting there red for a bit, couldn't actively cast anything. I do think that the majority of Fireclaw builds are almost always werebears, so it was pretty cool using a wolf as well. Again, guys, let me know in the comment section below what you really think, if you think the build sucks. Again, nothing will ever match a Hammered In, but we can try and do some fun stuff. Our final Diablo kill. Boom. Pretty quick kill. I think anyways. Very, very, very fun build. But yeah, guys, that pretty much wraps up today's build video. Again, I know it's pretty quick. I know it's not a meta build video. I know it's expensive, but I do hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, I do plan on implementing a few more budget-oriented builds as well. Gonna sift through those guides. A lot of YouTube content they need to crush through that I will do as time allows. But always, or as always, hope you guys enjoyed it. Hit the like on it, share it, and even consider subscribing if you're new to my channel. Post new weekly content on YouTube, and I do stream twice a week on Twitch. So any follows on Twitch or subs on YouTube would be amazing. Other than that, guys, hope you have a fan-frickin-tastic day, and I'll catch you on my next video or live stream. Peace out.